With Sarah covering them, the team pushed forward through the smoke and thunder of battle. Her rifle kicked against her shoulder again and again, the sound of each shot cutting through the chaos like thunder over the desert. Every time she pulled the trigger, it wasn't just instinct. It was survival. It was protection. It was courage made real. The air was thick with dust, the smell of burning oil and iron. Bullets tore through sand and stone around her. The ground shook under the blast of explosions. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was the one who carried ammunition, the quiet one behind the line. But that line no longer existed. The moment the enemy had ambushed them, she had picked up the rifle and made her choice. Her teammates moved ahead under her cover, trusting her completely. Each round she fired found its mark. Each heartbeat felt like a lifetime. Minutes dragged into hours. The sun beat down mercilessly, the ridge above them swallowing sound and breath alike. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The echo of gunfire faded, replaced by a hollow silence. Smoke curled into the sky like a ghost unwilling to leave. When the dust settled, Mason crawled up beside her. His face was streaked with sweat and dirt, his uniform torn. He rested a hand on her shoulder. "You did good, Cain. Real good." Sarah's hands trembled. She looked down, realizing she was still clutching the rifle, her knuckles white. Her throat tightened, words barely escaping her lips. "He's gone, sir. Blake's gone." Mason didn't speak at first. He just nodded, the pain in his eyes saying more than words ever could. "He's watching, Cain," he said finally, his voice low. "You honored him today." The mission was complete, but no one celebrated. The silence that followed was heavier than the battle itself. When they returned to base, the others spoke of what they'd seen, the moment when the girl who carried bullets had become the one who fired them when it mattered most. Days passed. The war around them didn't stop, but inside the camp, the story of Sarah Cain spread quietly. Some called it bravery, others called it instinct, she called it survival. One evening, she sat alone outside the camp, the sky melting into the colors of fire and gold. Her rifle lay beside her, silent now, but its weight still anchored her to that moment. The wind carried the faint smell of sand and smoke. The world was still, but her heart was not. She could still hear the echoes, still feel the rhythm of the shots. The war had taken much from her, friends, peace, sleep, but it had also given her something she hadn't known she possessed, strength born from fear, and courage born from love. Commander Mason approached quietly, his boots crunching softly on the gravel. "You know the brass wants to give you a commendation," he said, stopping beside her. "They think you saved 6 lives out there." Sarah didn't look up. Her gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. "I didn't do it for that, sir," she said softly. "I just didn't want anyone else to die." Mason smiled faintly. "That's exactly why you deserve it." For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind picked up, carrying grains of sand that shimmered in the dying light. Sarah's voice broke the silence. "I was just the ammo mule," she whispered. Mason shook his head. "Not anymore, Cain. You were the reason we made it home." That night, under a blanket of stars, Sarah opened a small, worn notebook she had carried since her first day of deployment. Inside were pages filled with Blake's handwriting, notes about wind direction, firing angles, and patience. She traced the letters gently with her fingertip, remembering how he had once tried to teach her to shoot. His voice echoed in her memory. "It's not about the shot, Cain. It's about knowing when not to take it." She closed her eyes, tears falling silently. In that moment, she understood that bravery isn't something you're born with. It grows out of fear, out of love, out of loss. It's what rises when there's nothing left but the will to protect the person beside you. Weeks later, Sarah stood on the airfield in her dusty uniform. Behind her, the mountains shimmered in the heat, fading into the distance. Reporters gathered nearby, shouting questions, calling her the miracle shooter. But she didn't see herself that way. To her, she was still the girl who carried bullets, the one who stepped forward because there was no one else left to. As the plane lifted off the runway, she looked out the window, the desert stretching endlessly below. She whispered softly, "Rest easy, Blake. I did my best." The engines drowned out her words, but she imagined the wind carrying them back across the dunes, over the ridge, through the silence that had once echoed with gunfire. And in her heart, She felt an answer. That whisper stayed with her long after she returned home. The nights were quiet, but not peaceful. The memories lingered, the smell of sand and smoke, the hum of danger in the air. Yet, in those memories was also something sacred, the knowledge that courage does not always roar. Sometimes, it whispers through tears. Sometimes, it lives in the hands that shake but never stop moving forward. Sarah Cain never asked to be a hero. She didn't fight for medals or recognition. She fought because she had no choice, because someone had to stand their ground. But history has a way of finding people like her, the quiet ones who rise when no one expects them to. And though the world may forget the details, it will never forget the truth, that courage can live in the smallest of hearts and the most unassuming souls. This story reminds us that heroes are not always the ones chosen for battle. Sometimes they are the ones who carry the weight in silence, who bear the burden without being seen, until fate calls their name. Thank you for watching this story of courage, sacrifice, and the strength of one woman who refused to surrender when everything around her fell apart. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Classified Courage for more powerful, true stories of heroism and the human spirit under fire.